Hi everybody, I'm Ryan. Today we're going to talk about domain ramp in Standard and how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Standard. Now if you're looking for a deck tech, I posted that yesterday. You should definitely check that out. And we're going to be using the deck from that deck tech for this sideboard guide. So let's jump into it. So before we get in how to sideboard, I want to go over the cards in the sideboard and what they're used for. Destroy Evil for enchantments like Wedding Announcement or Leyline Binding and dealing with cards like Graphene and Shieldred. Knockout blows for our mono red decks. Farewell for against decks that we really need to make sure that we have a reset button against and can just get overwhelming. Disdainful strokes for the mirror match and like control decks and stuff like that. Same thing for negate. Playing Jace Perfected Mind against decks that don't put on a lot of pressure on us, but answers our threats really well because Jace Perfected Mind we can cast really early and it can just win the game on its own pretty easily. We're playing Duress, again, for decks that have non-creature spells we're afraid of, like the Mirror Match and Control. Up the Beanstalk against decks that we want to grind against, and then Obstinate Bailoff for these aggressive decks and discard decks. So, the most popular deck in Standard is Esper Midrange. Against Esper Midrange, we're bringing in Duress for the counter magic, because they bring in a lot of counter magic against us. Bringing in Negate to be able to fight that counter war on the stack. Up the Beanstalk because they will end up grinding with us. They slow themselves down. Destroy Evil because they have those cards, Graphene and Shieldred, that we were just talking about. Jace because like once we answer their stuff, you can grind with us. And then Farewell because the reset button is super important. And we're going to be taking out Atraxa because they can fight on the stack really well, and having like a one-dimensional payoff just isn't that powerful. And Archangel of Wrath doesn't really kill anything at all. And then we're going to shave an Invasion of Zendikar because notice we're taking out a lot of payoffs, which means we don't need the all-in ramp that well. And we're just looking to grind with this deck. So that's how I sideboard against Esper Midrange. The second most popular deck is Azorius Soldiers, where we're going to be bringing in Duress because they bring in a lot of counter magic against us. And we're going to be bringing in Farewell. Now, I sideboard a little bit differently on the play and the draw, depending on the cards I side out. On the play, I'm going to bring out 3 Up the Beanstalk and 1 Invasion of Zendikar. Because I'm just looking to ramp as fast as I can, the 4-mana Invasion of Zendikar that does nothing is less of a big deal on the play. However, when I'm on the draw, I'm going to be bringing out 1 Up the Beanstalk and bringing out all my Invasion of Zendikar because I have a lot less room to be able to cast Invasion of Zendikar when I'm on the draw and be able to just like on my 4-mana spell just do nothing on the battlefield. And so this I sideboard against Azorius Soldiers. The third most popular deck is Mono Red Aggro, but also we're going to group in Gruul Aggro with this because we're going to sideboard the same against both. We're bringing in Knockout Blow to be able to just like kill their aggressive stuff. Obstinate Bailoff as a blocker that gains life. We're bringing out Atraxa, just a card. It just doesn't do a lot. It's hard to ramp into. You know, we need cards that do stuff and are payoffs. We're shaving it up the Beanstalk because often like the card advantage doesn't really matter. And so this is how I sideboard against both Mono Red Aggro and Gruul Aggro. Next most popular deck is Domain Ramped. However, we're going to group this in with Jund Ramp because we're going to sideboard the same against both. The Jund Ramp deck is one of these newer decks that's actually pretty insane. We're bringing in Up the Beanstalk because often we grind. Duress to be able to take out their interaction spells and some of their ramp spells. Disdainful Stroke to be able to hit their payoffs. Negate because it can hit some of their payoffs as well. And Destroy Evil, in the mirror match to be able to deal with Leyline Binding, but also to be able to deal with payoffs. We're going to be bringing out Archangel of Wrath, doesn't really kill anything. We're bringing out Leyline Binding because both decks have a lot of answers to that. And we're going to bring out Virtue of Persistence because the front end of it doesn't really do anything. The back end is kind of a just win, though, so we want to keep some number in. And so this is how I sideboard against Domain Ramp and Jund Ramp. Next most popular deck is Golgari Midrange. We're going to bring in Up the Beanstalk because often we have to grind with them. Obstinate Bailoff because they're a discard deck and we can kind of get them. We're going to be shaving a little bit of everything because we kind of want everything. We're going to shave a Courier's Briefcase. The game doesn't go long enough to really benefit from drawing cards that often. We're going to shave a Sunfall. 4 is just too much. They don't get ahead of it that much. And then similar reason for Archangel of Wrath. We don't need removal that bad. And so this is how I sideboard against Golgari Midrange. The next most popular deck is Esper Control, where we're going to be bringing Jace Perfected Mind, because if we land it really early, then it can win the game on its own while they deal with our big threats. Up the Beanstalk, because often we have to grind with them. Duress, because control deck. Disdainful Stroke, because they have a bunch of stuff that we care about that mana value 4 or greater. Negate, because it's a control deck. It counters like everything in their deck. We can bring out Sunfall, because they don't have a lot of creatures that we care about, if any. Same reason for Go for the Throat, and similar reason for Leyline Binding. We're keeping an Archangel of Wrath just for another threat. It's important we have as many threats as possible against this deck, but this is how I sideboard against Esper Control. Against Mono Blue Tempo, we're bringing in Up the Beanstalk. Very often we have to slog through their counter magic. Similar reason for Duress. Destroy Evil kills the Jhin and stuff like that. And then we're bringing in a Negate because it counters nearly everything in their deck. And we're going to be bringing out Invasion of Zendikar because they're a tempo deck. We don't really want to be casting spells that don't matter. because they can just let Invasion of Zendikar like resolve, they get an extra turn, and then they counter our payoffs, and that's just like not where I want to be with this. For a similar reason, I'm not a big fan of Courier's Briefcase, and then Atraxa for a similar reason that we side it out against Esper midrange. It's just like really sketchy to try to cast and like hope it works out. We want things that do other stuff as well. So this is how I sideboard against mono blue tempo. And then the last deck we're going to learn to sideboard against is mono white aggro. Bringing in Obstinate Baloth as a blocker that gains life. And we're bringing in Farewell just in case we can get to it and like wipe the board and hit that reset button. Bringing out Atraxa because again, we want to make sure that our payoffs do other stuff. And just that can often sit in our hand while we die. We don't want to do that. So this is how I sideboard against mono white aggro. So there you have how to sideboard against the top 10 most popular decks in Standard. If you like this video and want to see more videos like this, please be sure to like and subscribe. Check me out on social medias. Links are above me and in the description, especially on Discord and Twitter. Please join the communities there. Thank you all so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.